Fruity Friday. Have my lemons on. Liz Lemons. Shabbat Shalom, y'all. It was after midnight. I just got home a few minutes ago. I'm tired, but I'm excited. I have been on like a manifesting roll this weekend. Last night, it was like yesterday afternoon before work, I thought, oh, wouldn't it be great if I like went in and had a private party in this like one area, and it was like about this size, and it was like, you know, guaranteed this much money as a minimum. And I went into work and I literally got exactly that. I got the private party, the size, with the person that I wanted to work on it with, and we made the minimum amount of money that I set my intention for. And I was just like, oh my gosh, this is so crazy. So when we were like resetting the room for the next day, for tonight, I was like, I told the girl, the other woman that I worked on the party with, I was like, oh, what if we just like rolled on in here the next day and got the next party tomorrow? Because it was like twice the size we were on last night. And so I just kept thinking about it today, and I kept praying out loud. Like, you guys, we've been talking about using our words very mindfully and intentionally, and using the power of our words to pray out loud and to involve the help of God, Jesus, Holy Spirit, angels, like bring everybody in on it, ask for help, declare, name it, claim it, all that good stuff. So this afternoon, I was just like, oh yeah, I need to like pray out loud for my shift. So I was like, I want to go into that same room and be on the party and make this much amount of money and be on with the woman from last night, plus this one extra bartender who's also like a wizard. So I was like, together we'll all have this like manifesting magic. Y'all, I went to work and looked at the floor plan. With both of the people that I imagined that I wanted to be on it with. And not only that, we made the amount of money that I set the intention for us to make, which was like double what I made yesterday. Thank Jesus. My nephew was like, what are you doing to our boss to get on these parties? And I was like, not as much as I'd like to. It's funny because like I crush on my boss, but like I don't think he even has like any energy left for like real life. But it's so funny. But yeah, so I'm so grateful, and I'm just like declaring that and just wanting to like share my gratitude and tell a story that might inspire you to start using your words and your intentions. And I think too that when I set these intentions, there's two things at play. There might be more than two, but for sure I feel that it's not like, ooh, I hope this works. Like, I don't feel like that at all. I'm like, yeah, it's a given, and then I just throw it away. And I'm like, if not, whatever, who cares? I won't think about it again. So I'm not hopeful that the wish will come true. I'm fairly certain it will. Like, if I let go and I'm not needy about it and I'm just like, devil may care. So those two things are at play. If I were too needy about it, or if I felt like I didn't deserve it or couldn't handle it, I probably wouldn't get it. Or if I were like, there's a level of faith that's the Hebrew word emunah, and it's faith beyond reason. And I think that there's like, people will hope something will work, or like, oh, I hope we get a miracle, or I hope that this all works out later. But like, hope still has a little bit of fear almost in it, that like it may not work out, or you're like worried that it might not, or whatever. There's like something about it that's not, it's not 100% sure that like it's gonna work, and if not, it doesn't matter, right? So there's that. So there's like this almost like sureness behind it. And there's no like, oh, I hope this, like, I hope I do it right, you know, or anything like that. I'm not overthinking. It's just like a game. So I don't know. I'm trying to like reverse engineer this so I can like give you the exact details so you can recreate this kind of magic for yourself. But I mean, it's fun. It is really fun. And I think that the more you have the manifestations come through, the more your confidence builds and your certainty builds, because you start to realize that it's like there's a science to it. And once you kind of get the move down, you're like, oh yeah, like I know the vibe I have to be in to like make the declaration in a joking way and then have it like play out. So that was really cool, and I'm really, really grateful for that. And so our card for the weekend, I just did one. I was like, I don't know. I was open to pulling more cards, but this is the only one that turned over, and I felt like it was like very clear. And it's King of Swords, very clear. Yes, so my notification for like after every shift, it's like, rate your shift. It's like, get out of here. It's great. I'll rate it later. Yeah, so anyway, King of Swords was our card for the weekend. And I feel like we are really embodying this archetype within ourselves. I think that we are really claiming sovereignty over our lives, over our world. And we're finally out of like, I feel like for so long we've been in that phase of like dying 1,000 deaths to move out of the old self into a new up-leveled self in a new cycle for it to really be new. And I feel like I kept getting images of us as like, for so long we've been like the soup inside of the cocoon. Like we used to be a caterpillar. Life was so simple then, and then we've melted into this soup, and like we're just in between this process, and we were too far in to go back now, you know. And so we've just been like in this cocoon, sort of like waiting to be something again, whole again, put back together, and discover who we are now. And so it's finally time. We've finally cooked. The timer has gone off. That little like rubber thing that like tells you the turkey's done has like poked out. And it's time to start busting out of the cocoon and using our wings for the first time. And you can see that like over the King of Swords, there are 3 butterflies that symbolize transformation. But I also, what I see here is the highest triad in the tree of life, which is the one whole, the center, the all that is, the primordial point where all of the light enters. This is the most abstract nature of God. This is when everything is one thing and there's not even duality or masculine and feminine yet. And then on the right side, we have the divine supernal masculine. This is the supernal triad. And then the divine supernal feminine on the left. And so to me, this says that we are integrating the masculine and feminine energies within us to produce this strong central column energy, which is the 3rd column in the tree. And basically that's the grounding wire. It's like electricity. It's like positive, negative ground wire to like to ground the electricity so that you don't get electrocuted, right? So that it's not like an open vault or whatever. So we're really grounding all of this new energy. We've got all of this like manifesting power, like bouncing and ricocheting off everywhere. And it's like we are really honing it in and grounding it in and down into like this level-headedness and this strength and this stillness within, where I think that we're just feeling like super confident, and we're feeling emotionally sober, and we're feeling like really clear about things. You know, we've been working on getting past so many of these past issues, these distant wounds from our childhood, sins of the generation and patterns that we picked up from our parents, that they picked up from their parents. And so we've been working through a lot of this. We've been working through the wounds of our past relationships and all of this. It's really just been coming up and like this big, huge purge. And so now I feel like it's finally been offloaded and we can finally see clearly now for the first time and like the clearest, like most sort of like level-headed that we've ever seen things. It's amazing. And so our world is starting to kind of reflect what we have been cultivating and building on the inside. Well, remember, up until recently, we still had all the momentum of our past behind us. And so I've been getting this image lately that like for the past few months, it's almost been like we've been trying to slam the brakes on a giant cruise ship and then turn the boat about, like turn it around. And that's very difficult for a boat to do. It's hard to like slam on the brakes in water, especially when you're like very heavy and you've got all this momentum and force behind you. It takes a minute and it takes like some very skilled and very precise maneuvering. So we are turning the boat around and we're turning our lives around and we're up leveling and things are going really well. And so we're going to be handling things in a different way that we're not used to handling them. And I will say this, there's been some really good podcasts that I've been watching that they also have videos too that post. I like to watch videos even more than podcasts. But yeah, so there was some really good ones that I've been listening to recently with Dr. Joe Dispenza, and he was pointing out that our nervous system has to relearn things when we come out of patterns, right? And this is part of the work with To Be Magnetic as well. So the other day I realized that like I was doing some of my hyper-vigilant behavior. Like sometimes I get a little OCD about like checking like doors and stuff before I leave and like having to do it like more times than necessary to like feel comfortable to leave the house. And so what I've started telling myself is, okay, you're being hyper-vigilant because you're about to go into an unfamiliar situation or you're feeling anxiety about going into work or whatever. And so as I started to do that, just say it out loud to myself as I was doing the behavior, like, oh, you're being OCD because you're being hyper-vigilant, because you're, trying to protect yourself from unknown circumstances and whatnot. I started getting better about that. Well, today I caught myself doing it again and I'm like, oh, okay, wow, this is interesting because I'm doing the obsessive compulsive, like locking the door thing too many times, but there wasn't anything I was like nervous about necessarily or anxious about. And I wasn't even anxious about going into work. And so what I realized in that moment was my nervous system doesn't know how to feel safe when things are stable and quiet. I grew up in such a chaotic environment with just like back-to-back crises in my family constantly for like our whole life mostly, that I never knew what it was like to go through an extended period of time. I can't even remember a week hardly that there wasn't something happening. And so for the longest time, maybe the last couple of years it's been quieter, but I realized, oh my gosh, my nervous system doesn't know what to make of the fact that I've been feeling so good recently. Like I've been talking to like my close, nearest and dearest about like, wow, I feel so great. Like I feel so like light and free and confident and like good about life and all this stuff. And it's like out of nowhere, like the subconscious or the nervous system is like, oh, this is unfamiliar. Let's have some anxiety. We haven't had any anxiety in a while. And then I started feeling the disembodied anxiety, right? So just becoming aware of that helped get rid of it. And it's almost like the anxiety is gone. And I mean, I'm sure it'll be back again sometime, but recently, even if there are like legitimate things to kind of be stressed about, I don't really feel too stressed about them. And I think that like this is kind of a trend. I think people are kind of feeling stronger within themselves. And I think that we are kind of coming into our own on a new level. And I think a lot of people are starting to realize a lot of things for the first time. And I think they want to express that and communicate that to people and in general. And I think that's great. I think it's just be careful to watch your words, because the King of Swords can be a bit blunt and a bit harsh. I did have a challenging experience today. I had to finish up some things with my ex. Like, we had some, like small paperwork things to sort out because of leases and things like that together, and different stuff that we just are both like we're both lazy, and it's just taken us like a year to like get around to like separating some things that needed to be done. And it felt like a big completion, and it was kind of difficult in a way. There were definitely feelings coming up, but I just wanted to stay in my grace about the whole thing. We'd been on good terms so far. We'd ended things well, and I just wanted to keep it on that note. And I just was like so grateful that I'd practiced as much as I had to not, in a moment of vulnerable, kind of heightened emotion, to get snippy or to get too cold or defensive. And I caught myself wanting to, but I just tried to like rein it in the best I could. But I'm glad that I did, because I would have regretted having said something nasty or leaving things on a bad note. But yeah, I was like super grateful for that. So be careful not to be too brash or too blunt. You can be assertive, you can be honest, you can be straightforward, even neutral. You don't even have to be warm, but try not to be too cold or too hurtful. Or don't be cold or hurtful at all if you can help it. But yeah, you may be wielding your sword of truth, and just remember that the blade cuts on both sides. It has the power to heal or kill. So be mindful of your words. Enjoy owning your power and being in your sovereignty and having like a lot of clarity and emotional sobriety. But just don't get too cerebral, because sometimes the king can be so up in their head that they are just like losing all like the fire and the passion. But I don't think we're in too much danger of that, since our blood is boiling half the time, right? Okay, guys, I'm feeling good. I'm trying to remember really quick if there was any other notes that I wanted to say about this. I think it's just, you're going to feel like really confident to be very straightforward and direct, and things are not going to bother you like they have. And you're really owning your sovereignty over yourself. You don't need they don't need anybody to give them permission or to validate them. They are confident, like sitting on their throne, right? They are whole within themselves. They're not like looking outside of themselves. In fact, the king sometimes is like a little bit like overboard about like not looking outside of themselves. They can kind of tend to be isolating and an island at times, because they're so just like heady about everything, and not as soft as some of the other characters in the court. So keep your friends, keep your relationships healthy, but enjoy not feeling tumultuous turmoil under the surface as much as we maybe have in the past. All right, y'all, this is one of those times where I feel like I haven't said anything, but probably when I go back and watch this, I did say something. And I'm feeling deeply insane and I need some water. And I'm going to go water my garden, and yeah, I'll probably go to bed soon. I've already eaten, so I don't need dinner. But you guys, I hope you have a good day tomorrow. I hope you have a good rest of your weekend. I will see you tomorrow for the Secret Teachings of Jesus tomorrow night. And I think that we're probably going to do another a part 3 on the inner and the outer, because there was so many things in the neural podcast that I listened to with Joe Dispenza talking about inner and outer stuff. I'm like, wow, we've really got to hit this on like the mystical level, the emotional level. Like now, like I want to add in some like science, like things that have to do with it, practical, like material 3D stuff. And then there was like another aspect of it too. Oh yeah, and like the whole literature aspect of the hero's journey and the heroine's journey and like all of that. It's so crazy how there's, when I first read that portion, I was like, I feel like this is the one to read, but I don't even know what I'm going to say about this. Like, is there anything that I can talk about? Because it just seemed so like straightforward. And here we are like 3 episodes later. It's like 3 almost hour-long episodes. I could have like created a workshop at this point just over that one little portion. So crazy. There's just so much in it. All right, y'all. We're really doing it this time. We're really doing it. Me and my sister, when we grew up, we used to share a room. And when we were really little, we used to share a bed, and we would get like to talking at night, and we'd say, "You go to sleep. No, you go to sleep. You go to sleep first." And then we'd be like, "Okay, we're really going to sleep this time." And then one of us would say something, and we'd start talking. It's the same. All right, y'all. Be good, but not too good. Ciao.